Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and before I get started on the video, I just want to say two things. One, the real videos will be coming again soon, the music, the ranked videos. The year-end ranking, that is coming. I'm just lazy. And two, is that somebody was asking, it was a comment that then got deleted, it looks like. I couldn't find the comment. But someone was asking me to put subtitles on my videos for accessibility, and I don't know how to do that. I'm just filming on my phone and uploading to YouTube, so I don't know if there's a way I can add closed captions or automatic closed captions. Even then, it's probably not going to be accurate because I talk like a crackhead. But anyway, guys, if anyone knows how to do that, just comment below, because I honestly don't know, and if I can't do that, I'm really sorry if that's a problem for anyone. I don't try to make things inaccessible, I'm just bad at making things. Alright, so again, this lighting is absolutely abhorrent, but I thought I would do some, well, sort of unpopular opinions, or at least unpopular opinions, or opinions that I just don't see every day, because obviously people's opinions are vastly different, but this is going to be Star Wars, so please don't yell at me in the comments. You can respectfully disagree. Then again, this is the Star Wars fandom you're talking about, and I'm pretty sure y'all are more crazy than, literally any other fandom I've even seen. Y'all make armies look tame. And that's saying something. Okay, except for Sonic the Hedgehog fandom. But Sonic the Hedgehog fandom is actually the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna get straight into it. I'm gonna kind of go, I guess, not chronological, but just based on the order of the movies, I guess. So, I'm just gonna kind of, go through the movies and just what I think about each movie that could be deemed unpopular, or just an opinion that I happen to have. Okay, so the first ones I have, pretty much anything regarding Phantom Menace. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie. I think it's the worst one. You could definitely make an argument for Attack of the Clones being worse, objectively, with some of the dialogue and stuff. I can definitely see that. But Phantom Menace to me is just boring, and that's why I consider it the worst, because I'd rather not be bored while watching a movie. I think it has very little to offer. And my biggest complaint about Phantom Menace is that they had a child Anakin for the entire movie. And highly unpopular opinion coming up here, Hayden Christensen should have had 3 movies. What I mean by that is that they gave him 2 movies. They gave Natalie Portman 3 movies. Also, the age gap is fucking weird and creepy. Just saying. But, they gave them, he should have had 3 movies like every other main character. If you're following a Star Wars arc, which we have, even though Rey didn't exist yet, but with Luke and Rey, he should have started the character at about 19, and they started the character at 9, and then moved into Attack of the Clones. Now, I would have been okay with child Anakin if it was for maybe the first third of the movie, and then went to adult Anakin. That would have been fine. But I felt like there was just a lot of filler and a lot of not important stuff that happened in Phantom Menace, and I really would have wanted to spend more time with the Clone Wars and more time with adult Anakin in the movies, and it's just something that bugged me. I did not like it. I strongly disliked that they did that. Also, I find child Anakin really annoying. No offense to Jake Lloyd, because he was a kid. Obviously it's not his fault that he was directed that way, and nobody should send shit to a kid, obviously. He's not a kid anymore, but, nobody should have sent him shit, I'm just saying. But, in terms of, I don't like him. I don't like the way it was directed. I don't like the direction they took with it. Not happy with child Anakin at all. Next one is, I just don't think Jar Jar Binks is the worst thing in the world, because I find Phantom Menace so boring. I actually do find Jar Jar kind of entertaining, but honestly, I'm kind of middle of the road with Jar Jar, which is not something I've seen a lot of people say. People seem to either really love him or really hate him. I'm just kind of in the middle. I don't really care that much about Jar Jar one way or another, but he can be somewhat entertaining. He can also get a little bit too much at times, but at the end of the day, for what Phantom Menace is, it fits. But again, Phantom Menace, totally inconsistent for us to Star Wars. It's basically a kid's movie, and it's a boring kid's movie with politics, so that's not supposed to work well. Definitely the worst Star Wars movie in my opinion. I just don't like it that much. And again, my opinions about Anakin and Padme, when I say the age gap is weird, I'm not saying that, like, when they're adults or whatever, that age gap isn't workable, because it totally is. I've known people with way larger age gaps. But, I mean, the fact that they met when he was 9 and she was 14, that's just a very creepy thing to me. It's like, I am uncomfortable when I see people online, like a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old dating, because the level of brain development is not the same. It's like, I'm 17. I would not start dating a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old. I wouldn't do that. That's just weird. I'm okay being friends with them. I'm okay talking to them. But it's like, I'm not going to date them because that's just weird. And, like, yeah, once that kid is 19 and I'm 25 or whatever, that might be okay. But right now, that kid is 12 and it's just weird. And I'm not getting into legal stuff. I'm not saying it's pedophilia or anything. It's just weird, and, like, brain development wise, they're obviously not on the same level. He acts like a 9-year-old, she acts like a 14-year-old. It just, except she acts way older than 14, which is also weird. So the whole thing just doesn't strike me as working, because obviously Natalie Portman was playing older than 14. She wasn't 14 when she did it. Jake Lloyd was actually 9, so that kind of bothers me. The whole age gap thing is just weird, and I do not like that at all. That's a thing I don't like. And you can make every argument for saying midichlorians are dumb, which I completely agree with, but my next point is that Qui-Gon isn't useless. I used to believe for a long time that Qui-Gon was useless, and just because I kind of thought of him as, oh, we totally didn't need him, wasn't Yoda supposed to train Obi-Wan? Like, Qui-Gon's useless, because, like, why did he need to exist? We could have just had an older Obi-Wan training Anakin, which I still agree with to an extent, but with how they should have taken the structure, I don't think we needed the whole thing for a whole movie. But Qui-Gon's inclusion, to me, is useful because he's the figure for Anakin, and it makes Obi-Wan reluctant to train Anakin, which I think is interesting, and that sets up a pretty interesting dynamic between them, so I'm honestly okay with that. I think Qui-Gon is not useless. Qui-Gon actually serves the plot, and is probably the best part of Phantom Menace. I'm just gonna say this right now, I haven't watched Clone Wars or any of the shows, but just based on the movie and shit, Darth Maul is really overrated. He barely does anything. He kind of reminds me of Phasma in the new trilogy. It's just like, oh, he looks cool, and he does nothing, like, other than kill Qui-Gon and just, like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, by the way, there's gonna be, like, spoilers for, like, the entire saga, so you've been warned. Okay, so, moving on to, like, Attack of the Clones, just overall, I don't think Hayden Christensen is the worst thing about the movie. I personally think both Hayden and Natalie get on my nerves. It's definitely not their fault. It's probably because of the script. Anakin does come off as kind of a stalker at the beginning, which I find to be really uncomfortable. But this is just something that really gets on my nerves. It's just the way Padme talks in the romance scene. She's has this, like, girly voice, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being girly, but just something about Padme gets on my nerves. The way she acts. And no offense to Natalie Portman, but honestly, I think Natalie bothers me more than Hayden in this movie. Just something that just bothers me a lot. I'm just not a fan. I am not a fan of it. Now, what else I have to say is that, I mean, there's some other stuff that I could say. I mean, I could talk about Jango Fett. Jango Fett being an underused character, I guess. Not underused, but, like, I want to know more about his backstory. They should make Jango Fett a Star Wars story. That's what they really should do. But, I digress. But, anyway, because I would actually be really intrigued to see that. Like, a Jango Fett movie. That would be so cool. But, I digress. So, I do like Attack of the Clones. I think Attack of the Clones is immediately better than Phantom Menace because it has better pacing, it has more action scenes. Phantom Menace is just boring to me. In my opinion, the worst scene or the worst lines are not the I don't like sand scene. Everyone talks about that scene. I think the worst scene to me is the one, there's a quick scene where they're having dinner and he's, like, force moving fruit, and then the scene right after that by the fireplace when they're just talking. I just find the dialogue and the acting to be really cringy in that scene. And my absolute least favorite scene, and I've seen some people say this scene is cute, I think it's absolutely cringeworthy, it's the one where they're in the field and they're talking about politics, and then they start he gets kicked off the potato creature, and then they start rolling around in the field. I fucking hate that scene. It's so stupid. And it just kind of begs the question the entire time, where does Padme fall for Anakin? He's a jerk, he's a lot younger than her, comes off as a stalker. Why does she fall for him? I totally get why he falls for her. I get that. That's not the point. Like, why does she fall for him? It's just legitimately what I do not understand. And this is why, to this day, I could go off on a tangent, but I am somewhat of an Amidala shipper, and I could go into that in depth, but I'm not going to. So, anyway, I don't really have too many unpopular opinions, but Natalie Portman in that movie. Oh my god. So, moving on, I think, Revenge of the Sith, okay, the fact that Jar Jar is responsible for Palpatine's rise in a way is super dumb and also makes all the sense in the world. I'll say that right now. Secretly brilliant, but also super dumb. The line Padme has about, what is it, the applause, or this is how Liberty dies, that is the best line in, like, the entire prequels, but Padme is so worthless in the movie. I know she gives birth to Luke and Leia, and, like, that's important, yeah, I get that, but the point is, like, Padme is, like, I actually like it. I find myself liking Anakin more, even though, like, okay, like, even though Padme gets to my nerves in 2, she does stuff, she does badass stuff, she fights, she's on Geonosis, whatever, I do think she's still more likable than Anakin, but, like, in this movie, I find myself way more invested in Anakin than Padme. I just could not care less. I only care about her because Anakin cares about her, and by extension, I only really care about Anakin because Obi-Wan cares about him, so, by extension, I'm really only invested in what, okay, just fucking one. Okay, so, by extension, I'm really only invested in Obi-Wan because Ewan McGregor is awesome, but I will say that this is just something that bothers me. It's just, like, about Order 66. So, I really love, the scene itself is really emotionally affecting. Oh, that's so good. But one thing that bothers the heck out of me in the entire prequels is how stupid the Jedi are. Like, I know the Jedi Council is supposed to be portrayed as not perfect and blind to some things and doing some things wrong, and that's why Anakin turns against them. That's totally fine and valid, and I get that, but, like, the fact that they don't see any of this shit coming, and the fact that they're all killed so easily, that bothers me. I'm like, how do they get killed so easily? They're such pushovers. Like, the only people who survive are Obi-Wan and Yoda because they're awesome. But, like, they're such pushovers. Like, they're literally killed by an emotionally unstable teenager and a bunch of clones. Like, oh, they didn't expect it, so, the clones started turning on them, but it's like, oh, so they couldn't see it because Palpatine clouded their Force vision. Yeah, so what? So, like, why didn't they, like, kill the clone? Or, like, even when the clones started turning on them, they weren't able to fend off some clones and the kid? I don't get it. It's just, how did all of them, like, I understand some of them dying, I understand there being casualties, I get that, and I know why it had to happen that way, I know why they all had to die, because, just set up the original trilogy, I get that, but from a, story standpoint, but what I'm saying is it bothers me, it's never well explained. They needed to make it more believable for all the Jedi to be killed, like, bring them to some sort of trap or set up a bomb or something, I don't know, like, at the Jedi Temple, it just feels like it didn't do it. A lot of that felt rushed anyway. Like, the whole stuff with Anakin's transformation into Vader is just kind of like, I don't know. It's like you see some gradual transformations, like, ever since the Sand People scene from Attack of the Clones. You see some gradual transformation, but it just kind of takes a sudden turn. Like, he's like, you see him getting pissed off about the council, and then, oh, I'm gonna yeet Mace Windu out a window. And the whole thing is just, weird. It's just, oh my god. It's kind of dumb. But just how rushed it is. I still love Revenge of the Sith. Don't hate me for saying that because Revenge of the Sith is awesome. I'm just nitpicking at this point. But that is something that legitimately bothers me, is the Jedi being complete pushovers. Maybe it was intentional, but maybe it was supposed to show how powerful Anakin was. I don't know. Another thing that bothers me is that Anakin is supposedly always more powerful than Obi-Wan, and yet they're evenly matched in the fight, which, again, makes sense for story-wise, but I just don't understand why. I don't get it. So, okay. Okay, another opinion I have about Revenge of the Sith is that, well, two more. One, the whole thing with Padme is freaking dumb, and she did not die. Anakin killed her. That is my opinion. When he did the Force choke thing, that was what was draining her life force, and also he was draining her life force, or Palp was, when he was resurrecting Anakin into Vader. Very creepy. That's my theory, because there's no fucking way she died of a broken heart. That's bullshit. That is absolutely bullshit. The explanation that is given in the story is fucking bullshit. Okay. And my second thing I was gonna say is that, I think Obi-Wan being a dick and literally cutting Anakin's limbs off and leaving him to die is perfect. I know people get mad at Obi-Wan for it, and, like, I totally get that. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do. And I get annoyed too, but what I am saying is that Obi-Wan is not a perfect character, and Luke makes similar mistakes, or almost makes similar mistakes with Kylo Ren. And it's something that Luke looked the heck up to Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan made mistakes, and Obi-Wan was ultimately wrong about Vader, you know, being able to bring him back. He said you couldn't bring him back, and Luke was able to bring him back. So at the end of the day, I see so many parallels between what happened with like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Luke and Kylo. Like, I just see so many parallels there, and I love it. It's awesome. Just I love those parallels. But that's kind of beside the point. But yeah, don't like that. I think Obi-Wan doing that shows how much he was convinced that's along with the character of there's no bringing him back. That goes against that. He knows there's no bringing him back, and it's just wow, that scene is amazing. So I'm gonna go into Solo, I guess. So Solo is not that good of a, well, it's a fine and competent movie. My opinions about Solo is, one, we need sequels and follow-ups. The fact that they canceled all the sequels makes me mad. And number two is that Solo itself does not feel like a Star Wars movie, except for the Kessel Run sequence, which was admittedly great. And I'm not talking about any of the actors or anything. And I'll just say right now, I love Kira and I love Beckett, so yes, and the Dryden as well. Great characters. But my problem with Solo is, and I love, you know, Han meeting Chewie, and Lando was mostly good, of course, L4. But again, nothing against pansexuality in terms of, like, with people, but it's a droid, and I just think it's weird. I'm not anything against Lando. I'm not anything, like, I'm not trying to shade Lando as a pansexual character. That's not my problem. My problem is that it's a droid, and he has a crush on the droid, and it's just weird, and I don't like it. But my biggest problem with Solo right now is that the movie itself looks too dark. It's physically too dark. I can't see what's going on in Corellia. Like, the scenes at the beginning of the movie are too dark, and that bothers me. It doesn't look good. Talking about Star Wars movies that look really good, I think the best looking Star Wars movies probably Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi. I mean, I'd even say Force Awakens, and probably, I mean, Rogue One looks fantastic, but if I had to say the three best looking ones are probably Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and Last Jedi. In no particular order, by the way. But the worst looking Star Wars movie outside of, like, maybe Phantom Menace is probably Solo. It's just so bland looking for the most part. And the train sequence is ripped straight from Captain America. Don't tell me that that's not what that is, because it is. It's literally the train sequence from Captain America, but in the air. It's literally that. And I hated that they just killed Beckett's girlfriend just, like, right away, and we never got to know her at all. It's like, I'm not invested in this character. Why should I care? Like, okay, none of that makes sense. I love the twist with Kira and Darth Maul, but I need Darth Maul, but I need more of it. I need to see what happens there. And no, not in some shitty TV show. I want to see a movie. I want a sequel, and it bothers me. Solo is honestly not that good, and it's honestly kind of overrated. It's probably my second least favorite outside of, you know, Phantom Menace, because at least Solo is somewhat entertaining and doesn't bore me to tears like Phantom Menace does. But yeah, okay, so Rogue One is incredibly underrated still. I've seen so many people put it at the middle or toward the bottom of their list, and Rogue One is a top 5 Star Wars movie for me. I used to say top 3, but now I think some of the pacing, just to me, at the beginning of the movie, just doesn't feel as good to me. I think the pacing in Revenge of the Sith is better. But, like, Rogue One is still a top 5 Star Wars movie for me. It's just fantastic movie, that third act, though. Everybody always talks about the Darth Vader hallway scene, but nobody cares about the characters in Rogue One. The characters in Rogue One are amazing. I love all of them. The fact... You have to kind of dig deep to really get invested, but the fact that I'm able to get invested in characters I only know from one movie, and the fact that they build that so well, I love it. Jyn Erso is probably one of my favorite women in Star Wars. Just, she's awesome. I love her. Cassian ain't anything too special, but I love how they show some of the dynamics of, the Rebels did shitty things too. And I love their relationship. I love... Turret, obviously. K2SO, best droid ever. Yes, he's my favorite droid. That is probably a highly unpopular opinion because, R2-D2 exists, C-3PO exists, whatever. But, well, R2-D2 might be my favorite droid, but out of the, talking droids, I guess, K2SO. But, anyway, guys, yeah, so overall, Rogue One is just, and I always forget, but my other problem is that I always forget the names of the two guys. Because it's like Baze and Bodhi, and I always get them mixed up. And I always forget the names. And I feel so bad about that. I'm like, what is that guy's name? And the embarrassing thing, this isn't an opinion, this is just something that happened to me, that for the longest time, with those characters, I did not know anyone's name except for Jyn and Cassian. In K2SO, I guess, but, I didn't know, or Galen or so, Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera, obviously, but, because they keep talking about Saw Gerrera, they always referencing my name. I never really remember them referencing the other characters by name, and they do, but it's just, I never paid attention, really, so, confession time. Okay, on to original trilogy opinions. A New Hope is not a top 5 Star Wars film, number 1. Nostalgically, yes, but because I did go up with the original trilogy, but in terms of overall quality, I think a lot of films have surpassed it, and I think Force Awakens is better than New Hope, which I'll get to. My other opinions is that I don't care who shot first. The scene is stupid. They didn't need to change it at all to begin with, but obviously Han didn't shoot first because Han can't shoot first if no one shot second, so in the original cut of the film, Greedo never shot back, so you can't shoot first if no one shoots second. That's not how that works. So I guess you could make the argument, you could say Han shot solo. I'll wait. But anyway, the scene, it's stupid and annoying, the whole thing with, let's keep editing the scene. And I find it to be really, really annoying that they keep messing with it. It's just people, but at the end of the day, I do not understand why it's such a big deal. You can make all the arguments about Han's character, or it looks bad, or look at Greedo's aim, and at the end of the day, I just could not give a shit. I just don't even care. It's just it's such a quick thing. I don't understand why that is the complaining point. Everybody goes in there and complains the hell out of Han and Greedo. Just bothers me. The next thing is that the Jabba scene absolutely sucks. The Jabba scene that was added in, I hate the CGI on it. I hate, by the way, for the special editions, I'm going off the 2004 DVD because that's what I have. It's the 2006 DVD, which comes with the old version, the Laserdisc version as well, but whatever. For the special editions that I'm talking about, so for original releases I'm talking about, it's VHS/Laserdisc version, which is on the DVD, and then the DVD version, which was 2004. So those are the versions I'm familiar with, but I'm just telling you right now. Star Wars, so the Jabba the Hutt scene, I hate the CGI in it, I hate that Han stepping on his tail, and what irks me to no end is that they repeat dialogue from the Greedo scene, because the Greedo scene was obviously created to compensate for the fact that they could not make the Jabba scene originally. And I've heard George Lucas talk about how much he wanted that Jabba scene back, and even though the Jabba scene sucks, I can respect Fett enough to say this, and this is a highly unpopular opinion, even though it's not my favorite scene, and I think the Greedo scene is better. If you were going to add the Jabba scene back in, they should have cut the Greedo scene entirely. They wouldn't have had to change it, wouldn't have mattered who shot first, because having the repeat dialogue scenes back to back just ruins it for me. I just can't deal with it. That is just one thing that really bugs me to no end. that's really the only change I would say that bothers me, except some of the CGI in Mos Eisley feels a little bit unnecessary. It feels like they're testing CGI for Phantom Menace, which is exactly what they were doing. Again, Phantom Menace is probably the worst looking Star Wars film, so probably the new cut of A New Hope has some scenes that look kind of weird, but overall it still looks... Certain parts look better, certain parts look worse than the original, that's all I can really say. Because, like, the parts they have stormtroopers on the creatures, they're actually moving now, you know, because they just have models before. So, like, certain things do look better. I don't really know why when they blow up a Death Star, there's a ring around it. Like, that's in the new version. I have no idea why. So, at the end of the day, it's really hard for me to say which version is superior, because, that Jabba the Hutt scene is really bad. But at the end of the day, I can't really discount it too much, but I could get into a whole other thing. So just I prefer watching that version now because at least it's different, because I watched the VHS of the old ones so many times. So another thing is that I really wish they had developed... They were, like, developing stuff, and then they didn't have time to develop it, and I get that, because it's like, oh, it's time to, you know, it's time to make... They had to cut the movie down because that's what Fox told Lucas to do. So he added back in when they did the special edition. They added back in like a bunch of like footage, I guess, for like the Death Star run. And dude, that stuff is great. Like the fact that they added all that back in, because that was stuff they shot and then got rid of, and that stuff is great. But what bothers me is it's like you're adding all that in, which is great. It's like, oh, director's cut time, let's add the Jabba the Hutt scene back in, but we didn't add the Tashi Station scenes back in. Like, okay, whatever. And also that none of the friendships are developed, and I have about a million questions outside of Luke and Han. Luke and Han's friendship is the only one that's developed, and I love them, and they're awesome. But that's developed more in Empire, by the way, at the beginning of it, but you get the point. But I will say right now that, like, there's no context. Like, none of it, it's just so confusing. It's like, there's just, like, none of the friendships are developed enough, and there's no context for, like, how anything happened. Like, how did Luke know how to fly an X-Wing? How did he learn how to fly an X-Wing? And I was reading something where Seb Wedge taught him, like, how did they have time? How much time did they have before the battle started? How could the Death Star track the Falcon through light speed? That's an important question. Did Last Jedi just retcon that, or what? I'm confused. Like, I just have so many questions about it. It's just, like, it bothers me. It bothers the heck out of me. And I'm just, like... They were, like, trying to develop things that didn't end up getting developed, and then it's just, like, whatever, no one cares. No one cares, like, I don't know, I just feel, one other thing that really bothers me about it, and I know I'm going on negative rants, but everyone talks about how great and, like, perfect, mostly perfect, A New Hope is. So two things that bother me. One is when Obi-Wan says, there's so many voices cried out in terror and suddenly silenced. Suddenly cried out in terror and was suddenly silenced. I hate the double use of the word suddenly. So, episode 4 has shitty dialogue too. And number 2 is that one thing that bothers me the most, and I don't see people talking about this, one thing that bothers me the most about the Battle of Yavin, this isn't really an unpopular opinion, it's just something that I don't see people talk about, is that there's no, I mean, there's closure, but there's, like, no closure, because, like, a bunch of people died. Like, I get it, it's a victory, right? You're gonna celebrate that, heck yeah, but, like, there's no sense of, like, closure with that. It's just, you just cut to the medal ceremony, and everyone's celebrating, and then when you look up who were the heroes of Yavin, it's literally just Han, Luke, and Chewbacca. It's like, what about everyone else who fought in a battle and died? Like, what the fuck? And the other thing that, none of that is developed. None of that is ever developed. Luke having survivor's guilt from that, which I'm sure happened, that's never developed. And in Empire Strikes Back, we never see a reference to literally that again, like anything that happened there. We never see a reference to his aunt and uncle. It's never mentioned ever again. Ben Kenobi, Ben, is the only person that's mentioned in terms of, Ben, I need guidance, help me. You know, he's the only dead person that Luke mentions, even though there's, like, other people who died, including his, like, family who raised him. So that just comes off as weird to me. Like, Ben Kenobi. Like, it's always Ben. And I mean, yeah, I'm dancing around it because I don't want to go on a 5-minute Big Starklighter rant. Shit, I dropped my phone. But, because I'm like, they didn't develop the friendships. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know. That's all I can really say. It's confusing, and the scenes don't contradict each other per se, but just the more you think about it, the more it doesn't work. Because they didn't develop it, because they decided to scrap it, and they're like, but you could have added those scenes in at least if you're gonna add the freaking Jabba the Hutt scene in. Those scenes are at least better. Those scenes are better than the Jabba the Hutt scene. They would have had to add CGI backgrounds. That would have been fine. They didn't have to add. They had to add a CGI character, and just they're like, oh, Harrison Ford, let's add him. No. Oh my God, it's so bad. I went on way too long about that, but just like they should have added those scenes back in, because the scene they did add back in I like, but it's like it doesn't make sense because who the heck is Biggs? Also, again, it just there's no sense of like it's just so confusing. It's like who knows who? It's like there's no clarity on like why does the Alliance even trust Luke? Because he just kind of showed up. Like he doesn't have like anyone's blessing. He's not like, oh, you know, this guy, right? Luke, he's amazing. Let's get him on. But no, it's just like he just kind of showed up. And they all immediately trust him with a leadership position, and the whole thing just doesn't make sense to me. So that's something that bothers me. Empire Strikes Back, the original cut of Empire Strikes Back, I don't know if this is unpopular, but this is my actual opinion, is legitimately perfect. I know I was complaining about Luke not referencing other characters, but like in terms of what the movie we got, just literally perfect. I cannot come up with a single complaint about Empire Strikes Back. I really can't. Anything I can come up with is so petty and stupid. I mean, like Yoda saying, do or do not, there is no try. No, you learn by trying and failing, but at least Yoda realized that later. But it's just like, the pacing is perfect. It looks stunning. The emotional stakes, dude, the acting, just everything in that movie, literally perfect. I like the space worm scene. People say they don't like that scene. I like that scene. I like literally every scene in the movie. I love the opening. I love Hoth. It's just Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie of all time. And my unpopular opinion is that Special Edition sucks because the Wampa scene was not needed, and I did not need to see that bloody telethon carcass. I like that they added Ian McDiarmid, but the dialogue they switched up was bad. And any of the dialogue changes were bad. That's all I can really say. I don't like it. So that version is not good compared to the original. It's not different enough for me to say it's bad. Like, if I could only watch that version for the rest of my life, yeah, heck, I would. It's still my favorite movie of all time. But, like, it does bother me. Return of the Jedi. I know a lot of these opinions are revolving around the special edition, but, like, there isn't really much for me to criticize or say that's unpopular about the original versions, other than I like Return of the Jedi way more than New Hope, so I guess that's unpopular. But if we're talking about special editions, I don't know if it's unpopular to say I hate Jedi Rocks, and I hate, I don't hate the new score at the end. I just, where's Yub Yub? Yub Nub, whatever, it's iconic, we need it back. No, I'm just kidding. So I actually do kind of like the new ending. The only problem I have is that they show Naboo and they have like Jar Jar Binks clowning around. It's like, we did not need that in our lives. Also, another change I could care less about. Hayden Christensen. I don't care if he's there. I don't care if he's not there. I've seen good arguments for both, you know. I've seen people say, oh, it doesn't make any sense to have Hayden because Luke wouldn't recognize him. And I've seen arguments saying Hayden was when Anakin was his true self, so that it only makes sense for him to show up. I get that. Both of those arguments are valid, so I just don't really care at this point. I really don't mind seeing him there. I really don't care if it's not him. I really do not care. And, yeah, like I said, the old song is shit. Or the new song is shit, I mean. Jedi Rocks. And the sequence, I hate the lips. The lips are shit. Like, blah. No, it's just, I hate it. It's bad. And I hate the whole sequence now. Although, props to the girl for coming back and doing the dance moves 20 years later. Props to her. But I digress. So, here's where stuff gets really spicy, because this is the sequel trilogy, so, okay. I just want to put a disclaimer out there that there are things that legitimately bother me about the sequel trilogy, and there are things I will cite as problems. I do feel like they were mostly making it up as they went along, and it just bothers me. But on the other hand, I will say right now that I like the sequel trilogy probably more comfortably than the prequel trilogy. I probably enjoy them. I find them more entertaining overall than the prequels. I do think that, like, Revenge of the Sith is top tier, but, like, in terms of the prequels as a whole, I gotta say I prefer the sequels. Just straight up opinions. First of all, there's gonna be spoilers. Second of all, I do not hate Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. In fact, I like them quite a bit. My unpopular opinion is that Force Awakens is better than A New Hope. And I've only seen Rise of Skywalker once, so I can't really say a ton of definitive opinions about it, but I did really enjoy it overall. There was something that felt a little bit empty, and I do wish I got a little more questions answered, but overall, I did really enjoy the movie. I have no problem with Rey taking the Skywalker name. I have no problem with what they did with Kylo, even him dying. I have no problem with literally anything they did in terms of major characters or plot points. Nothing really bothered me there. I mean, yes, there are some minor things I can complain about, but I'm not going to go into it because this isn't a review of Rise. My opinions on Last Jedi are that I honestly really, really love the parts with Kylo and Luke and Rey. It's honestly some of the best looking stuff in Star Wars, and the fact that Luke almost had this fleeting desire to kill Kylo, that reflects Obi-Wan cutting off Anakin's limbs, and it's fucking perfect. That parallel is amazing. I don't mind Grumpy Luke at all. Grumpy Luke is just like a manifestation of my mood. Also, he's literally like, you had whiny Luke and now you have Grumpy Luke. It seems to fit, I guess. And I know he changed, but you can have recessions in your character. You can have something bad happen to you and you go back to being a whiny bitch about it. Like, I get that. Okay? He went through a ton of shit. He thought he'd fixed everything, and then he got betrayed, so I totally get it. And Luke, in the end, totally did the right thing. The closure to his arc was perfect. What happened in Last Jedi, even, like, with his death, was perfect. The scene in Rise of Skywalker where he pulls the X-Wing out of the water for Rey is my favorite scene in the movie. So I know Mark Hamill was like, oh, Jake Skywalker. I know what he said. And I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, but I thought it was really good what they did with Luke, for the most part. I loved the Battle of Crate. The Battle of Crate is probably the best looking, actually, no, definitely the best looking land battle in the series. Yeah, I said it. I'm not saying Hoth isn't my favorite, because it is, but, like, the Battle of Crate is the best looking land battle in the series, full stop. Maybe with the exception of Rogue One of the Battle of Scarif, but no, the Battle of Crate is just that good. Perfection. I love the stuff with Luke just overall, and just how they did with his arc. He went into the hiding because he did that, and then Yoda talks sense in him. He's like, hey, Luke. That scene was amazing, by the way, when Yoda shows up, and Yoda basically told Luke to get his butt in there, and people are like, and I've heard people say, like, oh, Luke could have at least showed up for the Battle of Crate, and I'm like, bitch. Luke made a extremely powerful force projection that, like, as far as I am aware, no one else has ever done that. And he, first of all, literally sacrificed himself because he used all his life force to make a powerful force projection. And he could be more helpful as a force projection and a distraction than he could as a mortal human, because in his current older state, as a mortal human, they would have just shot him down. Like, I'm not saying he couldn't have fought back, but, like, remember when they shot all those bullets at his projection and he just didn't die? Like, that was perfect. Like, the projection, I mean, just kept standing there and did the shoulder thing. That was perfect, and I loved it. So, overall, Luke totally did a super badass thing that, like, is super powerful. Luke shows that Luke is super powerful. Because we saw him getting powerful in Return of the Jedi, and he's really coming to his own there. We see him being super, super powerful before he dies, obviously. Just love that to death. One of the things I think about Leia is that I love what they did with Leia for the most part. It frustrates me that was not their fault. I feel like the new script was rushed for Rise. They really should have given it another year in the oven after Carrie passed away. But Carrie passing away, they did handle Leia's arc pretty well. And I did enjoy that. So again, I didn't have any problem with Rey taking that name. I would have been fine with either Skywalker or Solo. It didn't really bother me. I'm all for the message of that family is more than blood, so the fact that she and her parents didn't want to be associated with Palpatine either, so that would just be weird of her to be like, hey, bitch, I'm a Palpatine. So, yeah, I definitely appreciate that. It's not stealing someone's name. It's really frustrating. Finn and Poe got completely shafted in Rise of Skywalker. I am mad about it. I'm angry. I'm angry because Disney will not make a gay couple. It made me so mad, honestly. it was super frustrating to me. I found it to be super insanely frustrating. Just bothered the heck out of me. It bothered the heck out of me. It was like, the fact that they were trying to reinforce that Poe Dameron is not gay. Guys, you're hurting me. The ship is still open, I suppose, if you say Poe is bisexual and if you say that, because he didn't go with that chick, so maybe him and Finn can still be a thing, but, like, in all of our head canons, but, like, why did you shaft that so hard? That makes me angry. Because that is an OTP of mine. Just, also, I like Reylo for the most part. I'm sort of a Reylo shipper. Reylo's cool. I like the dyad thing. I think it worked out. I think Reylo worked out. I liked what they did with it. It was fine for me. I also had headcanon Rey is asexual. I don't know if that's unpopular, but whatever. And, you can be asexual, heteromantic, or biromantic, whatever. She kissed Kylo, so whatever. She kissed Ben Solo. You get the point. And that Han's death is literally the most heartbreaking Star Wars death ever. Han's death in Force Awakens is the most, okay, maybe up there. I mean, I have to say, like Anakin, you know, Vader, that's up there. But, like, Han's is just, and I loved that they drew the parallel with that in Rise of Skywalker. I don't hate Rose Tico. I think Rose Tico is a perfectly fine character. She's spunky. She's got that hopeful attitude. I do like that about her. But at the end of the day, she really should have died at the end of 8. They shafted her so much in 9, she didn't matter. She should have died in 8 at the end of the story. When, after she and Finn kissed, she should have died. I'm really glad they didn't push Finn Poe as a romance. And they didn't push, I mean, not Finn Poe. I'm glad they didn't push Finn Rose, and they didn't push Finn Rey either, but they should have pushed Finn Poe. That's the end of the story. It frustrates me to no end. But overall, if I had to rate them, I would have to say Force Awakens is the best of the sequel trilogy, followed by Rise of Skywalker, and then Last Jedi, because Last Jedi does have some pretty serious pacing issues, even though I think it looks fantastic, and the stuff with the core characters is handled fantastically. So yes, I'm not ashamed to say that I like Rey as a character a lot. I like Rey, I like Luke in Last Jedi, I like just everything about what they did with that. So honestly, sequels get a thumbs up from me. There are still things that irk me, still things that I have issues with, obviously, but that is probably the most contentious opinion I have now. But I want to say this right now, honestly, it feels like every generation just likes to hate on the most recent Star Wars. Because, like, oh, the original trilogy people, when the prequels came out, they hated it because it was different. And now the sequels come out and they hate it because it's different / too similar to the originals. It's just like, whatever comes out in the next generation, all the people who grew up with the sequels are going to hate that. It's just like, it's the Star Wars cycle, and I'm fucking sick of it. It just makes me so exhausted to see that. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment your unpopular opinions down below. There's no judgment here. Just spread love. I don't know. Be nice. Because, like, Star Wars is all about hope and love, and apparently everyone just has to be assholes for some reason. So I'll see you later. Bye.